Imagine a new kind of investing, a potentially life-changing way to invest that honors biblical principles, the kind of principles that you and I grew up with. Since 1994, Timothy Plan has made biblically responsible investing possible, offering mutual funds and ETFs that are filtered for biblical principles. Don't compromise your values. Invest with Timothy Plan. Ask your financial advisor or call Timothy Plan at 1-800-TIM-PLAN. Again, that's 1-800-846-7526 and discover what it means to be a biblically responsible investor. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Read carefully before investing. Mutual funds distributed by Timothy Partners Ltd. and ETFs distributed by Foreside Fund Services LLC. As a paid testimonial, there is no guarantee of future performance and each experience will differ. Well, hey there. Welcome to another edition of the Memo Pod. This is your host, Peter Heck. Glad to have you with us. And I just got to tell you what's coming up in the second half, okay? I wrote back in 2020. Yeah, it was 2020. Yeah, it was the 2020 election. The one thing that Donald Trump could do that would win him the 2020 election, win him re-election. Okay, I wrote that piece. And Rush Limbaugh covered my article on his program. That was like the pinnacle of my career, which may be sad to some of you, but like that was the most notoriety anything that I had done had ever gotten. And the funny thing is, if Donald Trump had done what I suggested that he do, he would have won the 2020 campaign. I feel confident. Not because I'm a genius, but because that is exactly what he needed to do. As an average, ordinary American who was not a fan of Donald Trump, that one thing would have swayed a lot of people, and he would have won the 2020 election. He didn't do it, and he didn't win. So what I am going to do in the second half of today's Memo Pod is, again, as no fan of Donald Trump, and we've talked about that the last couple of weeks, I am going to expound upon the one thing that Donald Trump could do that would propel him to a win in this election of 2024. It just would. And here's the thing, this is going to be true whether or not he faces off against Joe Biden, which I don't think is going to happen, or whether he faces off against Michelle Obama or Hillary Clinton or Gavin Newsom, which I would say the smart money is on any of those three. I highly anticipate that the Democrats will get Biden enough delegates to have clinched the nomination, and sometime between then and the end of the convention, there will be some event that takes place or some diagnosis that takes place, and Joe Biden will not be able to serve as the nominee, giving the Democrats the opportunity, the party bosses, to name the nominee that they want, and it'll be one of those three, and they will face off against Donald Trump. That would be my best guess. I don't think Joe Biden makes it through another campaign. But whether it's Joe Biden or whether it's any of those other three or anybody else, doesn't matter. It's immaterial. If Donald Trump does this one thing, he would actually win the 2024 election. So I'll talk about that, and then I'll discuss whether or not I think Donald Trump is going to do that one thing and why I think that. All of that in the second half for our paid subscribers, and it's going to be dynamite. All right, but for right now, it's almost, the word is reductionist. It's almost reductionist philosophy is what it is. And yet it is exceedingly popular on social media. Mob mentality always trumps critical thinking. It always does. And this kind of philosophy, this debate has been continuing to grow in the United States. If you haven't been paying attention, the debate has continued to grow in the United States about what Governor Greg Abbott is doing and the Texas National Guard, what they are doing. They are spreading, they are expanding all of the razor wire that they've been attaching to border fence, the like a few yards of razor wire, so that even if you cross the border, if you climb the fence, you'll be treated to a great run of razor wire. All of that to serve as a deterrent to the illegal border crossings that are happening right there in their state. And as the debate over this has grown, all of the unnuanced, very simple-minded, I would say clunky takes, they've just had a heyday. I mean, provocative sloganeering everywhere. Here's one of the dumbest, okay? I saw this, and I saw it from a few individuals. I don't know who originated it, but it kind of started to catch on in the progressive world and the progressive Christian world. And this is what it says. Maybe you've seen it. You can't be pro-life and pro-razor wire. Now, to be fair, I don't really care for this kind of thing when it happens on the other side. I really don't. I would not like that kind of statement any more than a statement that would say something on the opposite side, like you cannot be pro-life and pro-border invasion. I wouldn't like that statement either, because to me, saying that kind of thing is extraordinarily unbeneficial. It's appealing to extremes in both the rank and the rhetoric that you're using. Now, are there people who consider themselves to be pro-life, but who also exhibit this inexcusably wanton disrespect for those who come across the southern border in a desperate attempt to do nothing more than make a better life for themselves and their family? Are there people who call themselves pro-life, but they have a very disconcerting, very even disgusting disrespect for the life and the safety of innocent people who are destitute and desperate? Yes, there are those people. There 100% are those people. I don't know how numerous, but there are those people who are pro-life when it comes to unborn children, but they don't seem to really care at all about the lives of people who are crossing the border in desperation. Okay? Just like there are people who consider themselves to be pro-life, but they condemn the now, I guess I should say they refuse to condemn the now plentiful examples of capital crimes being committed by people who have poured across the southern border illegally. They try to sweep it under the rug, and they don't condemn it. They don't talk about it. They get mad if you bring it up. Yes, those people exist as well. But I would also point out that neither of those two exceptional cases, the pro-life person who doesn't give a rip about the lives of the children and the innocent that are desperately trying to find a better life, those people exist. Just like people who don't seem to care at all and try to cover up the murders that are being committed against innocent American citizens by people who have illegally crossed the border. Yes, both of those things exist. But both of those are exceptions. Neither of those things is the rule. I'd also say that I think it is exceedingly moot to try to use these catchphrases like pro-life if you aren't willing to define what you mean by that. Now, I do understand that that's the standard operating procedure. It's the standing practice that is employed by progressives against politically engaged Christians. That is a very common tactic that progressives use. They point to Christians who find a more comfortable alliance with the Republican Party over the Democrats, and then they demand to know how a Christian could possibly support, and then you insert at that point in time the position of one or even maybe a majority of Republican officials. Well, how can you as a Christian support X, whatever it is? As though the designation of Christian has more to do with your fealty to American political debate and at least one of America's political parties and their policy agenda than it does to submission to Jesus. It's a shame tactic is what it is. And I get that shame tactic is intended, the point of the shame tactic is to try to put Christians on the spot, to try to falsely accuse them of all kinds of hypocrisy. But truthfully, and I need to say this, going back to the you can't be pro-life and pro-razor wire, truthfully, there is not a shred of hypocrisy that is present if a person believes in the unalienable right to life for all living humans, as well as lethally strong national border defense. There is nothing hypocritical about that position. There's no inconsistency, because both of those things, it can be fairly argued, it can be fairly believed, protect innocent human life. It is utterly consistent to say that I believe in the unalienable right to life for unborn babies. I also believe in the right to life for innocent citizens along the southern border, so I support a lethally strong national border defense. There's nothing inconsistent there. Now, you can say that you don't like that argument. You can say that it's not necessary, all of that. But both of those positions are attempting, or at least advocating, for the protection of innocent human life. That is the essence of pro-life activism. So don't tell me, well, you can't be pro-life and pro-razor wire. No, actually, you can be. Because the razor wire is meant to deter. It's not actually meant to torture anybody. It's meant to deter the illegal immigration of potentially hostile and criminal elements. No, not everyone is. But we don't know who is. Hence the razor wire. I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory, I would think. But honestly, for years, I have cringed whenever I've been confronted with this kind of sophistry. And it exists out there. It's all over the place. When it comes to this supposed dualism of supporting, say, capital punishment for violent offenders, as well as you support abortion bans. Here's how the argument would be leveled. Here's how it is leveled. Well, if you say you're pro-life, you can't also say that you support the death penalty, because that's a self-contradiction. That's something that is said often. And it's almost always shouted by someone who actually is advocating the inverse. They're mad saying, you can't call yourself pro-life while at the same time being in favor of the death penalty. But remember that that's being shouted by someone who usually believes the inverse, which is the legal execution of preborn babies, totally fine. The execution of violent criminals, not okay. We need to ban state-sanctioned execution of violent offenders. It has always, to me, bordered on disgrace, demented disgrace, that a person could and would, in good conscience, mind you, argue for the right of a notorious serial killer to live, while simultaneously, out of the same mouth, sometimes in the same breath, suggesting that a blameless baby in the womb has no such right. Take a situation, horrific situation. The horror of a child conceived in rape. You tell me then, what tortured moral logic is it to conclude that the innocent third party, the unborn child, that innocent third party that had nothing to do with the act whatsoever, the crime whatsoever, that innocent third party should be subject to the death penalty, but the violent criminal who violated the very humanity of his female victim should not be? What kind of tortured moral logic is that? Nevertheless, because I don't want there to be any confusion over what it is that I'm saying, it is the same precise reason that makes a person pro-life when it comes to the unalienable rights of unborn children. It's the exact same precise reason that makes them favor strong borders, that makes them favor gun rights, that makes them favor the enforcement of capital punishment for infamous crimes. Every single one of those things, from abortion bans to strong borders to gun rights to capital punishment, all of those are enacted to protect innocent life from criminal conduct. Every single one of them. Utter, complete, full consistency. Now, are there better methods to achieve each of those ends? If you're trying to protect innocent life from violent criminals, is the best way to do it to arm every citizen, to train every citizen to use firearms? Look, we can argue until the cows come home about the best method to achieve those desired ends, but that is immaterial to the philosophically dim assertion that you can't be pro-life and pro-razor wire. We simply have to be better, capable of better thinking than that. And yet it's everywhere. Your thoughts welcome, as always, peterheck.com. That is peter@peterheck.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to get your take on all of that. You can either do that or you can comment down below right there. I lost a little thing over there. Anyway, you can comment below if that's better. I would love to have your thoughts on any of this. And this is open to all free subscribers, so you can let me know as well. Now, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to tell you what, from my political scientist brain, which I haven't been good at making political predictions, but if I can pull rank here, I do in fact have a master's degree after the compilation of a perfect academic record. So what I'm getting at is a master's degree in poli-sci, political science. So what I'm getting at is I am just unbelievably smart when it comes to this stuff. And consequently, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help Donald Trump out. I mean, that's what he needs. He needs some dude from Indiana with a master's degree in political science. That's the missing piece. But seriously, I will tell you the one thing that Donald Trump simply has to do, needs to do, and nothing else, and he'll win the 2024 election, regardless of who his Democratic opponent is. And I'm saying that as somebody that really doesn't understand how Donald Trump is going to win this election. I don't see how he can. But if he does this one thing, he would. I'm convinced of it. So for our paid subscribers, I'm going to fill you in here after the break. For those of you who are free, I have to leave you behind unless you are so intrigued to know what this mind has come up with for what Donald Trump needs to do to win the election. You got to know. So you go to the email and you click the button to go ahead and upgrade to a paid subscription. And you get it, you can do it monthly if you want, just $10 a month, or get that discount, $20 discount, and do it for a full year. What's it going to hurt? We're trying to edify believers and build them up, Christians in the culture, all of that stuff. Plus, you'll get to find out that one thing that Donald Trump needs to do to win the election. Have I teased this enough? I hope so. But I want to have that conversation. Those of you that are free, I'll have to catch you next week. Those of you who are paid, hang tight. And we'll get into this next.
The Memo with Peter Heck.
Please patronize and thank all the sponsors of the Heck podcast, including McGonigal's Buick GMC, Terrell's Auto Service, Norris Insurance, Stevens Machine, Creative Financial Center, Indiana Right to Life, Tri-Green Tractor, the Indiana Family Institute, Hartman Family Farms, Liberty Financial Group, the Wyman Group, and J. Watson Creations.